The letter arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning, the envelope thick, its edges worn from travel. My grandmother's handwriting was unmistakable, elegant loops and flourishes no one else in the family could ever replicate. I hadn't seen her in almost 10 years. Inside was a single-page note, sealed with her antique wax stamp. I hesitated before opening it. The last time I heard from Nana Margaret, she had been hospitalized after a stroke. She never came to my graduation, never wrote back to my last letter. And yet, I still lit a candle on her birthday every year. The letter read, "To my dearest Emily, if you're reading this, then I have already passed. I am leaving you the one thing that meant the most to me in this world, my farm in Maple Hollow. Everyone else will laugh at this gift, but I know you will understand what it's really worth. Love, Nana." The farm. My breath caught dot in my childhood memories. It had been acres of sunlight, honeysuckle, and the smell of baking bread. The farmhouse stood proud at the edge of a golden field, its red barn like a crown. But to the rest of my family, especially my Uncle Henry and cousins, it was a joke, a useless relic. No one had visited in years. The reading of the will. I sat alone while the rest of the family filled the lawyer's office. They strutted in like heirs to a kingdom. Uncle Henry looked particularly smug, already counting his inheritance. And, finally, the lawyer said, "The estate located in Maple Hollow, including the farmland, buildings, and mineral rights, is left to Miss Emily Morgan." There was silence, then laughter. "Are you serious?" Cousin Chase nearly choked on his latte. "She gets the farm? That dump?" Uncle Henry turned toward me, his expression sour. "You can barely keep a job in the city, Emily. You're really going to go play farmer now?" I clenched my fists beneath the table. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Nana had trusted me. That was enough. I arrived at the farm 2 days later with a single suitcase, a second-hand truck, and a heart full of questions. The house was dusty and creaked in the wind, but it stood strong. Her furniture was still there, covered in sheets, and old photographs lined the walls, including one of me at 6, grinning with a missing front tooth and holding a sunflower twice my size. I slept that night wrapped in silence, the kind only open land could offer. The next morning, I found it tucked inside a kitchen drawer. A leather-bound journal marked Margaret Morgan Land Notes. The first few pages were about planting rotations, weather, pests. But halfway through, the entries changed. The geology team confirmed it again. Beneath the southern field, layers of rare mineral veins, lithium and cobalt. Buried treasure. They say the world will want it one day. I never mind it. Didn't want to scar the land. But maybe Emily will know what to do. She sees things differently. I froze. Lithium and cobalt. This wasn't just farmland. It was a goldmine for the clean energy future. Suddenly, Nana's words made sense. Everyone else will laugh, but you will understand what it's really worth. Back in the city, I started quietly. I took meetings with sustainability startups. I read everything I could on ethical mineral development. I didn't tell a soul in my family. I formed Morgan Hollow Renewables under an LLC, using the old barn address. No one paid attention to the useless granddaughter living out in the middle of nowhere, which was exactly what I wanted. Months passed. The land became more than inheritance. It became strategy, partnerships, technology, legacy. By the time the press got wind of the rare minerals under Maple Hollow, I already had the rights secured, environmental permits pending, and contracts signed, but the public didn't know who owned it. Not yet. One afternoon, I got an email invitation. Morgan Family Reunion honoring Uncle Henry's 60th birthday. Venue: the Regent Club. Dress code: formal. I nearly deleted it, but then I smiled. They still had no idea what I was building. Let them celebrate Henry's birthday. Let them sip champagne and toast to themselves, because in a few weeks, I'd be hosting a press conference. And when the world saw who controlled the most valuable clean energy deposit in the region, the one everyone had ignored, mocked, and dismissed, I'd no longer be the useless granddaughter. I'd be their reckoning. Every morning at the farm began before sunrise. The old place creaked to life around me as I stepped into my boots and brewed coffee with water drawn from the well. There was no espresso machine, no city skyline, no clamor of morning traffic. Just wind through the wheat and the echo of birdsong. But behind the rustic charm, I was building something that would shake my entire family. And the energy industry. By day, I walked the fields, noting terrain, elevations, and access paths. By night, I emailed geologists, renewable tech startups, and legal consultants. I drafted grant proposals and investment decks from the old dining table, where my grandmother used to set pies to cool. Morgan Hollow Renewables was becoming real. I hired a quiet but brilliant environmental lawyer named Kira to help me register patents and protect the land from outside interest. She'd worked with sustainability nonprofits before and immediately saw what I was trying to build, not just a mining operation, but a revolution in responsible energy extraction. A farm that would feed the planet's hunger for clean tech without destroying the earth. We'll need a serious partner for lithium processing, she said during one of our Zoom meetings. I've got one in mind, I replied. And I want it done before anyone realizes this land is more than cornfields. A week later, I drove to a quiet industrial park 2 hours north to meet with Orion Systems, a clean energy firm pioneering eco-conscious lithium refinement. CEO Marcus Liu, a soft-spoken man in his early 40s, welcomed me like I was royalty. I've heard of your project, Miss Morgan, but I'll be honest. I expected a man in a suit, not a woman in muddy boots. Is that a problem? I asked. He smiled. On the contrary, the boots tell me you've been walking the land. That matters. I showed him the maps, the mineral studies, Nana's journal, entries. By the end of the hour, Marcus sat back and said, "This could change everything. If you let me in, we'll make history." We signed a partnership agreement a week later. I kept my name off all public-facing documents. The world still thought Morgan Hollow was just another quiet farm, and that's exactly how I wanted it. Back at the farmhouse, the media buzz was starting to grow. Anonymous reports had leaked about a surprising lithium discovery in Maple Hollow. Journalists were sniffing around. Speculators showed up at the diner in town, asking too many questions. Real estate developers left voicemails with thinly veiled offers to relieve me of the land. I ignored them all, until one afternoon, a black BMW pulled up the dusty drive. Out stepped Cousin Chase, wearing designer sunglasses and the same smug smirk he'd worn since we were kids. He looked at the farmhouse like it might give him fleas. "Emily," he called out, as if surprised I was real. "Wow, you actually live here?" "I do," I said, arms crossed. "What do you want?" He laughed, holding out a bottle of wine. "Peace offering. Uncle Henry sent me. There's a rumor going around about some valuable minerals out here. Probably nonsense, but if it's true, we'd love to help you sell it. Get you something decent for this dump before it gets overrun by corporate wolves." "How generous of you," I said dryly. "Look, we know you're not exactly business savvy. You didn't even finish grad school. This stuff is way over your head. Henry's got connections. He can help protect the family legacy." There it was, protect the family legacy. Translation: give us your land so we can profit from it. I kept my smile polite. "I'll think about it." He winked and left, probably already texting Henry that I'd caved, but I had no intention of doing so. 2 weeks later, I flew to San Francisco under the radar. Orion Systems hosted me in their boardroom. The air buzzed with ambition and quiet brilliance. Engineers, environmental analysts, and policy experts from all over the world were now part of the project. Kira had just finalized the registration of Morgan Hollow Green Reserve, a new classification that would allow us to use the land for both renewable farming and ethical mineral extraction, setting a global precedent. "Emily," Marcus said, "your land could produce enough lithium to power over 2 million electric vehicles over the next decade. And you're insisting we do it clean, local, and fair. This will put Maple Hollow on the world map." "That's the goal," I said softly. "And I want the press to find out on my terms." He nodded. "The product launch in 2 weeks will give you the floor." My heart pounded. For the first time, I'd step into the spotlight. Back at the farm, I found another envelope in the mailbox, this time from a law firm hired by Uncle Henry. This letter serves as a formal request to transfer title of Maple Hollow to Henry Morgan Holdings LLC, citing shared family interest and concern over your legal and mental fitness to manage such a valuable property. I laughed out loud. They were scared. They had no idea I'd already protected the land, patented the process, and signed contracts with Orion that couldn't be undone. Let them keep trying, because the next time they saw me, I wouldn't be the girl they dismissed. I'd be the woman at the podium unveiling a global energy breakthrough, and then I'd bring the family to their knees. The auditorium in San Francisco was sleek, minimalist, and packed with industry leaders, reporters, and government officials. Banners read, The future is local. Lithium reimagined. Orion Systems had spared no expense for their global product launch. Backstage, Marcus adjusted his tie while I paced, trying to calm the storm inside me. You're nervous, he observed. I've never spoken to this many people before, he smiled. They're not here for Orion. They're here for you, the farmer who discovered a smarter way to change the world. That settled something inside me. I wasn't here for applause. I was here to tell the truth and to claim my place. When Marcus stepped onto the stage, cameras flashed. He opened with technical brilliance, walking the crowd through Orion's clean tech roadmap. Then came the pivot. But none of this would have been possible without one woman, he said. A woman who inherited a forgotten piece of farmland and saw a future everyone else missed. He looked toward me, and my heart thudded like thunder. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of Morgan Hollow Green Reserve, Emily Morgan. I walked out in boots and a simple navy blazer. Not a suit, not a brand, just myself. The applause was cautious at first, then rising, curious. Good afternoon, I began. 3 months ago, I was cleaning out my grandmother's attic. I found journals, mineral maps, and her dream of building something bigger than a family farm. She believed in sustainability before it was trendy. She believed in quiet power, the kind that grows roots before anyone notices. I clicked the next slide. Behind me, a topographic map of Maple Hollow transformed into a rendering of our dual-use green reserve, solar panels, vertical crops, and a clean lithium refining facility, all integrated into the natural landscape. This isn't just about lithium, I continued. It's about rewriting who gets to lead the clean energy future. It's about restoring land, not exploiting it. And it's about proving that legacy doesn't have to mean inheritance sometimes. It means reinvention. Now the room was still, silent, focused. I ended with Nana's words, etched from her final journal entry. Let the land speak, and you'll find more than gold. You'll find what lasts. The applause was deafening. The headlines the next day were brutal. For my family, farm girl outsmarts mining giants with world-first green lithium project. The quiet billionaire, how Emily Morgan built an empire while her family planned to seize her land. Maple Hollow, from overlooked acres to global clean energy hub. My inbox flooded. Investors, universities, the Department of Energy, and, buried beneath them, a furious email from Uncle Henry. You blindsided us. We could have made something big together. You made us look like fools. I didn't reply, because I wasn't done. Back in Maple Hollow, things changed fast. Construction crews arrived. Local news vans lined the roads. Suddenly, people who hadn't spoken to me in years were so proud to know me. The same high school classmates who mocked me for staying behind in a dying town now asked if I'd hire them. I didn't forget the ones who'd believed early, like old Mr. Langford, the carpenter, who helped me restore the barn when no one else would. He got the first community contract. So did the librarian who kept my Nana's journals safe when the county tried to shut the library down. The others? They could wait. 1 week later, I received an invitation from my cousin Charlotte, the only one in the family who ever showed me a shred of kindness. Dad's throwing a family legacy dinner at the estate next Friday. He's framing it as a celebration of the Morgan name, but I think he's trying to save face. He doesn't know you've been invited. I added your name myself. I just thought you should see it. Come if you want. I stared at the message. For years, I'd been excluded from every holiday, every decision, every supposed celebration of family. Now I was a wild card, the relative they couldn't control or predict. So I arfed, yes, but I wouldn't just attend. I'd arrive with a press team. The night of the dinner, the Morgan estate was ablaze with golden light and self-importance. Waiters in black TIs carried silver trays of foie gras. There were name cards at every seat, and a string quartet played softly near the fountain. I wore emerald silk, Nana's old favorite color, and walked in just as Uncle Henry raised a glass, and to the future of the Morgan name. He declared, "May we continue to lead, to build, and to protect our legacy." Then he saw me. The music faltered. Some guests turned confused. Others whispered. I smiled. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was brutal. Chase nearly choked on his wine. Charlotte winked. I sat down at the table, placed a thick folder beside my plate, and waited for the next course. It was time for dessert, and I had brought the receipts. The crystal chandeliers above the long mahogany table glittered like icicles. Uncle Henry sat at the head, smug as a king, while his guests tried to pretend the tension wasn't thick enough to carve with a steak knife. He cleared his throat. "Emily," he said smoothly, "how lovely of you to join us. We were just talking about your little business venture." I rested my hands calmly on the linen tablecloth. "Oh, Orion Systems? It's going well, though I hear there's some confusion about ownership." Chase barked a laugh. "Come on, You've got your moment in the sun, sure, but don't act like this is some billion-dollar deal." Charlotte flinched. The other cousins smirked, sipping wine. I reached for the thick folder beside me and slid it to the center of the table. "Actually, it is." Henry's smile froze. "I thought I'd come tonight bearing gifts," I said sweetly, opening the folder. "Let's walk through them together." The first page was a notarized mineral rights certificate signed by Nana herself, granting me full access to everything beneath Maple Hollow's soil. The date? 6 months before her passing. "I know you thought this land was worthless. I let you think that," I said, locking eyes with Henry, "because I needed you to ignore me while I made sure every patent, every lease, and every development contract was watertight." Next came the Orion Partnership Agreement, then the projected valuation reports. Then a photo, the one that made national headlines, me, shaking hands with the Secretary of Energy. "The Department of Energy approved our first clean lithium extraction grant last week," I added. "We'll be supplying over 18% of the West Coast's demand by next year." A stunned silence fell across the room. Chase finally snapped, slamming his napkin down. "So what? You tricked Nana into giving you the land? That's not business. It's betrayal." I didn't even blink. "I didn't trick anyone. She chose me, the only one who ever treated her legacy with respect." "You think this makes you better than us?" he sneered. "No, I know it does." Charlotte gasped softly. Uncle Henry's face was stone. "You always were the dramatic one, but no matter how much money you throw around, you're still just Emily from the farm." "Funny," I said, flipping to the last page. "Because next month, your mining company Hollow Rock Ventures is up for acquisition. Guess who the top bidder is?" His mouth opened, closed. "My holding firm," I said, smiling coolly. "Through a quiet chain of shell companies, of course. You'll sell it or I'll release the environmental violations report I uncovered when I bought out your site, Foreman. It's all in the folder." I stood up. "Oh, and I suggest you check with your board. 3 of them already signed off. I'm offering a generous package. Better than bankruptcy." The table was dead silent. Even the violinists outside had stopped. I tucked Nana's emerald brooch back into my clutch and turned to Charlotte. "You were the only one who ever made me feel like family," I said. "So here's my offer, come work with me. Run the foundation arm of the new Maple Hollow Institute. Help me build something real." She blinked. "Tears forming. You mean it?" "Always." Then I turned back to the table. "To the rest of you, thanks for the motivation. If you hadn't tried so hard to shut me out, I wouldn't have built an empire just to prove I could." That night, as I walked out under the stars, the air felt electric. Marcus was waiting by the car. "You look like a woman who just ended a dynasty." I shook my head. "No, I just started one. Back home." The farm lights glowed warmly in the distance. Except it wasn't just a farm anymore. It was a movement, a future. And Emily Morgan was no longer the overlooked niece or the girl with dirt under her nails. I was the architect of the next generation. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'd break ground. The morning sun filtered through the mist hanging over Maple Hollow, casting the fields in a golden glow. A soft breeze carried the scent of clover and fresh soil. I stood at the edge of the field, where Nana's old swing still creaked gently in the wind, watching the construction crews gather near the new Welcome Center. Steel beams gleamed, trucks lined up with panels for the solar array, and a large sign read, "Future site of the Maple Hollow Institute for Sustainable Innovation powered by Orion Systems." I still remembered the girl who used to stand here. Scuffed boots, calloused hands, heart full of quiet dreams. No one believed in her. Not her uncle, not her cousins, not even her teachers, who said I should aim lower because girls like me didn't become engineers or CEOs. Now that girl had built something the world couldn't ignore. Charlotte joined me, her boots sinking slightly into the damp grass. She carried a clipboard, her expression a mixture of disbelief and pride. "They're all finalized," she said, handing me the documents. "The acquisition of Hollow Rock Ventures went through this morning." I took the papers and let out A breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. And Henry? Officially retired, effective immediately. His resignation statement blames changing industry landscapes, she said with a smirk. I chuckled. Translation: checkmate. She nudged me with her elbow. You know, I used to think we'd all run this place together. Me, you, Chase. Even Dad, if he hadn't gotten so bitter. I used to think that too, I said softly. But sometimes, family isn't just who you're born with, it's who builds with you. The ribbon-cutting ceremony was small and intimate, just how Nana would have liked it. Local farmers, engineers, students, and community leaders gathered under a white tent as I stepped up to the podium. I wore Nana's favorite shawl and held her photo in my hand. She once told me, I began, voice steady, that roots don't just hold you down, they hold you up. They feed you, ground you, and keep you standing when storms hit. I paused, glancing at the faces before me. People who had been overlooked, counted out, ignored. Today, we break ground on more than just buildings. We're creating a place where innovation meets soil, where progress doesn't mean leaving the land behind, it means learning from it. This land gave me everything. Now it's time I give back. The applause was thunderous. The ribbon fell, and the Maple Hollow Institute officially opened. Within months, our pilot program trained 300 rural students in sustainable energy systems. The lithium extraction site became a model for clean tech innovation. And Maple Hollow's forgotten corner of the world was now on the cover of Forbes, Scientific American, and even National Geographic. Henry and Chase faded into irrelevance. Investors no longer took their calls. They were relics of an old world, the kind that crushed dreams with polished smiles and firm handshakes. I didn't crush. I built. Late one evening, I returned to the old farmhouse, now beautifully restored. The kitchen smelled like rosemary and fresh bread. Charlotte had cooked. Marcus was setting the table. Laughter filled the air. I stepped out to the porch with a cup of tea and watched the stars rise. The land stretched out before me, alive with promise. Nana's rocking chair creaked gently as I sat in it, her shawl still wrapped around me. I hope I made you proud, I whispered, and deep in my heart, I felt her answer, not in words, but in the wind, in the steady hum of the land waking up, and in the legacy we'd built together. Epilogue. 1 year later, first graduating class of the Maple Hollow Institute walked across a stage built in the same pasture where I'd once fed chickens and patched fences. Kids from coal towns, migrant farms, and forgotten zip codes received certificates in sustainable engineering, data analytics, and agricultural innovation. Every one of them left with a job offer, many from Orion Systems itself, and as they threw their caps into the air, I stood behind the podium once more, tears in my eyes, knowing one simple truth: the best revenge isn't power or money, it's building a world where no one like you ever has to prove they belong.